Thank you for spending time with me here on the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about increasing your income. In other words, when you go into retirement, you want to transition to more of an income-based portfolio. In other words, one that pays income first, then growth second. Now you may ask, well, why is that? Am I reducing risk or am I increasing risk to do that? Actually, you're decreasing risk. Because first of all, if you get your income up high enough, which most of our clients have been able to, whenever they take withdrawals from their portfolios, they're just taking it from interest and dividends. And therefore, if they're taking it from interest and dividends, that's more of a defensive plan. Because think about it for a moment, you don't know whether the markets are going to go up or they're going to go down. What you need is a good defensive formula, so that way, in case they go down, you're prepared for it. You don't want to change your retirement plan in midair right when you started taking withdrawals, and then all of a sudden the market pulls the rug out from underneath you. So it doesn't matter whether the markets go up or they go down, income is paid to you. That's why it's so critical when you go into retirement to be prepared for that. And you want to increase your income. A lot of people are not getting the income that they deserve. You know, most income we analyze today is more like equivalent to a part-time job, whenever you can actually increase your income to more of a full-time job. I mean, think about it. Who would go to work when you were 25 or 30 years old and work equivalent to what was considered part-time income? I don't know about you, part-time income cannot pay the bills like full-time income. And so you want to create a portfolio. You want your portfolio to give you more of a full-time income like scenario. In other words, and I'm not talking about income where you're withdrawing your principal and calling it income, people. I'm talking about interest and dividends, and it's so extremely important. And speaking of that, we are going to be talking today about a successful retirement plan. Ideally, what does that look like? In other words, I'm going to share with you the things that we do when we sit down with people doing a retirement risk report and what that entails, so that way people can totally understand what retirement should look like, and so that way you can get on with what you want to do, and that is to retire. So a good, successful retirement plan, and this in our retirement risk report that we actually do with everybody. As a matter of fact, it's the way we do business. In other words, we want to make sure that people are on the right track. Because sometimes if somebody comes in and they're already on the track that they need to be on, why make a change? You're maybe better off where you are, and that's the whole point of the retirement risk report, because it encompasses your whole retirement right before you, not just now, but into the future. But what we call a successful retirement plan needs to start from the basics. The basics is really simple. What is your income needs? And we do something called a top-down analysis. A top-down analysis starts from the top. That's the amount of income you're making right now, whether it's an hourly wage. We multiply it by 40 hours. If you're making overtime, it depends if overtime is consistent. If it's inconsistent, we'll just take the base, the foundational part of it, of that income. It's kind of like a loan officer does loans. And so I got really good at that because I did that for like 12 or 14 years and used to do loans. So I really understood income and what companies looked for. And not only that, it helped me segue in when it comes to retirement planning. So income needs are extremely important. And what we find is when you do the top-down analysis, is it removes some of the things that people, a lot of times people don't realize what they're spending, what things that they're already doing. Sometimes they'll come in and say, well, my net paycheck is this, and they think that they can just live on that net paycheck, but yet the numbers doesn't rhyme, in other words, because when you look at the top income, if they're making $100,000, for example, and they say they can live on $50,000 a year, and they're only contributing, let's just say $10,000 or 401k, and let's just say $7,000 or $8,000 goes into their Social Security, those two go away. So that's now you're down to just a rough number of $80,000. So a lot of times when they tell me they're living on 50, I'm trying to figure out where the disparity is with that $30,000 difference of 80. That's the gross amount. Yes, I get it. You are paying taxes, but nobody that's making $80,000 in retirement is paying $30,000 in taxes on that type of income. So federal and state income taxes, although they don't go away, we know that. We also can cut some things that may go away. And so when it comes to a good, sound retirement plan, we want to be able to make sure that we get the right income, because you're already doing that now, right? I mean, if your money's going deposited into your bank account each and every pay period, if your spouse is working as well, you've got two incomes that's going in, and that's what you're living on. That's what you're comfortable with. I don't know what it is you're doing. I mean, I can sit here and tell you the things that me and my wife do on a weekly basis, but I don't know what it is you do. The things that, whether you go out and eat 3 or 4 times a week like we do, or if you eat lunch out, or or if you have breakfast, or if you on Saturday mornings and Sundays you make a little mini trips, whatever it may be, you're spending money somewhere, and so that is your current lifestyle. And most people, at a minimum, doesn't want to see that change, and we don't want them to have them make that change. So income is extremely foundational. So if this makes sense to you, I want to get a commission report in your hand. Matter of fact, it's going to be a lot about what we're talking about with a successful retirement plan and where to start, beginning to end, so that way you can feel like you can confidently walk right into retirement and be prepared for all the unknowns included that could happen in retirement. So this commission report is called Building Blocks of Retirement. And this could be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we will mail this to your email at whichever you prefer. Again, that number is 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. I'm Tim Sparks, and we're talking today about what is a successful retirement plan. I mean, where do you start? I mean, just like if we are, going on the trip, we went to Hawaii about a month and a half ago. Well, we had to plan for it before we went. Matter of fact, we planned for it 3 or 4 months in advance. And so most of us are planners and some of us are not. We just take things on the chin as they come. And so, I'm a big, huge planner when it comes to doing anything, because I want to be able to make sure that I get the result. Hopefully, of course, sometimes we don't always get the result that we want, but it's if we plan, then we can get better results than it is if we don't plan. So I don't want to run into some unknowns and then get caught by surprise because I wasn't prepared for it. And not only that, going to Hawaii was a big trip for us because that was a bucket list trip. I have never been to Hawaii. My wife has been to Hawaii at least once. And, I'm gonna be honest with you. I knew it was going to cost money. Anybody ever been to Hawaii? It costs money. And it's a long flight. It's not necessarily the long flight there. It's coming back where you lose that time. And you probably are familiar with that if you've ever been to Hawaii. But one thing I can tell you, it was really great over there. We went to Pearl Harbor. We went to the other island, visited the volcanoes, and we done a lot of stuff, seen the Pacific. It's just, a once in a lifetime for me type of trip. And I can tell you right now, you better take money if you ever go on a trip like that, but it's well worth it. It's not where I'd want to live because it's 5 hours away from anybody. That's the only thing I don't like about it, because it's just like 5 or 6 little islands. But anyway, so when it comes to planning, you want to actually, be prepared ahead of time. And when it comes to successful retirement planning, what we do is, and what I'm sharing with you is 19 years worth of experience, going on 20 this year. I'm almost 20 years into financial planning. And what I have found and learned over the years is what I've learned from our clients. In other words, I've also learned what not to do. I don't know about you all, but whenever it comes to doing anything, and if you do it very well, you have to stick with it long enough to do very well. I mean, we learn from good and bad experiences. That's where wisdom comes from. And the more you do something, the better you get at something. And so I'm not saying I'm perfect at financial planning, but I can tell you right now, I'm working on it each and every day. And there's always something new to learn, especially when it comes to the stock market. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it makes you wonder if anybody really ever knows everything there is to know about the stock market. It's a very challenging place to be, and that's the reason why that I determined a long time ago that you're better off to have, a financial analyst managing our clients' money, which is an important component of what we do. The reason why is because they're in the trenches there on the money side. They see things that I don't see because I'm spending time doing radio shows. I'm spending time doing educational events and so forth, and educating the public. And also I've got a book coming out. I got a book coming out October 22nd of this year, and I'm going to be talking about it a little bit each and every week, and we're going to have a book signing here in my office and so forth. I'm looking forward to it, and I talk a lot about what I talk about on this show, but I elaborate on a lot more, show a lot more things. If you're like me, a lot of great visuals and stuff that's going to be in this book. I just now finalized the last editing part of my book, and I'm looking forward to that, so I can't wait to start sharing that with the listeners, as I think you will get a lot out of that book. And of course, we give a lot of information out on the show, and so and actually from the beginning to the end, just like today, we're going to be talking about successful retirement planning. And this book, it talks about it from the beginning to the end, the things you need to be thinking about, the mindset you need to have when you go into retirement. Don't be willy-nilly. Don't stick your head in the sand, or don't get in the back seat of a taxi cab driver and just expect that that financial advisor is going to drive you around. You need to own your retirement plan, so that way you will get the most benefit out of it. You need to know a little bit of be dangerous, and that's why we give this information away, so that way you can be dangerous enough, and so that way you can ask the right questions. Because if you think about it for a moment, you only get one chance to get it right? I mean, in other words, every time you take a hit in the market, especially when people are in retirement, the more conservative they get. And sometimes when you get conservative, the reason you get conservative because you don't want to take the risk anymore. And so, if you can minimize that urge and just stick with your plan like our clients do and invest for income, you wouldn't have to be struggling over having to make those decisions each and every time. So if you want to learn more about income first methods, I want to get an excellent video retirement kit in your hand. It's got 3 vignettes, about 10 to 15 minutes in length. I've been passing these out right here recently to some radio people that's been calling in, and they found a lot of use of these right here. And it talks a lot about what we're talking about here on the radio, what our processes are, and so forth. And actually, I'm coming out with some whiteboard demonstrations and stuff as well. I think it's going to be very helpful. That's going to be on these videos, because seeing is believing. I'm one of those type of people. I need to learn because I'm a visual. But I like to get one of these in your hand. If you are one of the first 5 callers, by calling it 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this out to you. Again, video retirement kit. It's got 3 vignettes, 3 short videos about income planning, et cetera, et cetera. And if you would like to get that, if you're one of the first 5 callers, 888-930-1080. You're listening to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. We'll talk to you just in a minute. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source. I'm Tim Sparks, and we're talking today about successful retirement planning. Thank you for joining us. By the way, our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. What we basically talk about is how to double or even triple your income. When I say income, I'm talking about your interest and dividends that you're more than likely not invested in right now that you otherwise could be. And if you think about it for a moment, increasing your income is probably a good problem to have, especially with the advent of inflation and rising inflation. Because inflation, how you beat inflation is be able to make sure your income that you're getting from your investments exceeds your actual goals, your income goals, the things you need, whether you got a home mortgage payment or car payments or homeowners insurance, whatever it may be, you want to make sure that your income surpasses that. Now, people can actually save a certain amount of money, a lump sum amount of money, and just pull money out of it and call that income. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about income kind of equivalent to like a landlord that collects rent. So if you're collecting rent, you're essentially leaving the asset itself, the asset called a growth asset. In this case, on the rental property, it's the house. The house is going to go up in value, so it gets an opportunity to grow, while at the same time, while you're collecting rent from the other column. So in other words, you're collecting rent while at the same time while hoping to get growth. So you're leveraging your gross assets so that way they can pay you income. So you need to invest your money that way. And you do that, and you can actually do that by living off dividends. In other words, this has been intentional with your investment strategies. You can do that by living off dividends or interest that pays off bonds and bond-like instruments. And that income can get up pretty significantly higher than what I see today in most portfolios. Most portfolios we see today are anywhere, let's just use $1 million number. Most people are netting about 1.25%. Well, that's not a lot of money. $10,000 to $12,000 a year is not a lot of money. Now, you may be taking more than that out. I'm not saying that, but what I'm talking about, what we call income, is $10,000 to $12,000. If you can get $50,000 in the same component, in the same category, just like a landlord can collect more rent versus lesser rent, I don't know about you, I'd want to know more about that. It's got my attention. So how I do that is we do it by actually getting a custom portfolio that's actually managed by professional analysts. That's all they do each and every day is invest our clients for income, so that way they can get more mileage out of their money. You get more mileage by not spending your assets itself. And how do you do that? How is it that somebody is actually spending principal? And you probably don't even know it. You're probably going down the road right now, so hopefully you don't have an accident by while you're traveling, because it's not the end of the world. If you are, if the markets are going up, it's okay. You did spend principal, you just spend less of it. And the biggest reason why is because people don't know how to determine how much true income, what I'm talking about on the show, how much they're actually getting. So if they were getting $10,000 to $12,000, and let's just say you're taking $50,000 out, or your advisor is actually engineering that income and taking that out, $35,000 to $38,000 of that is coming from principal. What they're doing is they're selling shares, and selling shares means you're selling ownership. And when you sell ownership, you mean what's happening over time. It doesn't really occur all at once. Is you're diminishing your wealth. What took you maybe 40 years to build, maybe it only take you 20 years to spend. And a lot of that is because you don't know, and neither does the advisor, and that's what they're hoping, that the markets will actually cooperate in a way and recover that principal that they just now took out of your portfolio by selling shares. Because if you think about it for a moment, when you sell shares, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. If you ever put a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, my wife does these every winter. She loves putting together jigsaw puzzles. I can't stand a jigsaw puzzle. I'm okay with it, but not like her. And so you remember those little dinky pieces, she spreads that on this table, and it takes her probably about 2 weeks, and voila, she's got it done. But those little pieces reminds me of what people are doing in retirement. When you sell shares, let's just say that whole puzzle's put together and it's made up of 1,000 pieces. Each and every year, what people are doing is they're eating away at a little few of those pieces of puzzle each and every year. And so when the markets drop, you take out more pieces of puzzle that come up with the same income, because you're selling shares, you're having to sell more of it. And in the up years, you take off less pieces. So the question becomes, will you run out of puzzle pieces before you run out of life? And so it's the same way here. And so I don't like that type of plan. I'd rather just look at that puzzle as more of acreage of a farmer and just put the farm to work and just generate crops, and therefore I can live off the crops and I can maintain my asset, my biggest asset, and that is the potential of growth of the real estate itself, the land itself. So, and I know y'all have heard me say that a lot, but I like to say it in different ways to be able to hopefully people, it starts getting through your bloodstream of what I am actually talking about. Well, in order to have a good offensive strategy where you're wanting to see growth in your portfolio, first of all, you got to have a defensive mechanism called dividend. If you can get the dividend up high enough, you will get your growth and cake and eat it too. And I got a commission report I want to get in your hand called The Importance of Financial Defense. And it could be yours if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this to your email at whichever you prefer. Again, that's 888-930-1080. The name of this report, again, is The Importance of Financial Defense. What is defense? You see, you don't know what the markets are going to do. Just like in the last week or two, the markets have been going down, right? I mean, that's just the way the stock market is. Next 2 weeks, they may go up. There's nothing no more permanent than a change when it comes to stock market volatility. But when it comes to retirement, stock market volatility stresses people out to the point they don't know whether they're getting the right advice or the wrong advice. Here they are taking income, and you got this guy on the radio talking about their spending principal. Well, I can tell you right now, people, our clients are not touching their principal, and the reason they're not touching their principal is because they're getting their dividends up high enough, and that way whenever you go through a little tipsy-turvy like we've seen here just in the last couple of weeks, you can take the income out and never ever have to worry about the markets or what they're going to do, because you can't control the value of those shares that you own in those mutual funds, which more than likely most people have, or exchange trade funds or ETFs. Doesn't matter. The goal is to get growth and income, but growth doesn't always occur. And so you actually want to increase your dividends, so therefore you can get growth. Now, getting back to a successful retirement plan. A successful retirement plan goes in the steps that we take, and the first and foremost is getting the income correct first. In other words, what is it that we're spending and what we need each and every month. The second part of the conversation we have is we want to know what they're going to do with their free time. Because remember, you've been kind of, you got to unwind here, so to speak, because you've been so much, you've been in this rat race for maybe 30 or 40 years going back and forth to work. That's no longer going to happen. Now you're going to sleep in, and then you're going to get up and you're going to be having to find things to do. And so what I have found is people spend more money in retirement, if not more, than they did when they were working. Why? Because now they got 7 days a week that they're now off. They're no longer off just on Saturday and Sunday. So you got to be prepared for that and know how you're going to be able to, you need to know what kind of income you can get on your portfolio. That's the reason why I say it's so foundational to make sure you get the income goes first. Second of all, you got to be prepared for inflation. Though I can tell you right now, if you want to beat inflation, the key is don't spend principal. The first 15 years are the most critical part of retirement. If you can get your income plan where you're doing nothing but spending interest and dividends. I mean, we have some clients that are not even spending all the interest and dividends. They got a good problem to have. We got other people that needs every dime of their interest and dividends. And the good news is because their interest and dividends is they're getting more than what they were when they came on board, whether it was in their 401k or their IRA, or maybe they were working with another financial advisor who's actually not specializing in income. We're getting the income up so that way they don't touch your principal. The least that you touch your principal, the better off you are. Why? Because you can't control the volatility. You don't know what the markets are going to do tomorrow, let alone in the next hour. And so if the markets go up, it's great. You don't have nothing to worry about. It's when the markets go down. So you want to plan for worst case scenario. So to do that is to not sell principal, so that way you have your principal intact. Just like the farmer who owns the land, over time that land's going to go up in value. Just keep generating crops, keep living off the income instead. Therefore, you got your asset, that growth asset that over time is going to go up in value. That's how you build wealth while simultaneously taking income. But I want to get a income first method video in your hand that may make sense for you and what we're talking about today. And it's 3 vignettes about 10 to 15 minutes in length about different ways, stock market history, investing for income, what our approach is, and so forth. And because it's a lot more work, people, when it comes to getting income. We don't do the disease of ease where we're just throwing you in some mutual funds and hoping and praying that it works out. That's not what we do. We're looking for income first and growth second. You'll get growth if you invest for income. And I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. We will be back just in a second. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks. And this show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. You can go to our website, www.sparks, that's S-P-A-R-K-S, plural, F-G, which is financialgroup.com. You can actually schedule an appointment online anytime you want to. We find that people go there, and I just want to make sure that most of you that are listening tuned into the radio today, if you can always go there, if you instead of calling in, if you would like to have a scheduled appointment with myself, and we will provide a retirement risk report to see if you are ready for retirement. Today we're talking about successful retirement planning. The most successful retirement planning is getting your investments in the right line that fits your philosophy. If your philosophy is to get income, then the best way to get income is to live off interest and dividends. You get the interest and dividends right, then you have the income, you're not spending principal, you're going to get more mileage naturally out of your money. I've had people tell me, well, how long does the income pay? Well, it pays into perpetuity unless bonds quit paying interest, CDs quit paying interest. I'm using these as tools that people can use to actually get paid interest. And they've always had, they have a long-term track record of paying interest. Matter of fact, I decided to look up and I said, I wonder how long, or what bonds out there has been paying interest. And I found one's been paying interest since the early 1600s. And I found that to be awful strange. And I can't remember, it was a top of a bank. And they still apparently pay interest today. So insurance companies rely on corporate bonds to pay interest. I mean, think about that for a moment. Corporations are around a real long time. It's because of how they invest their money, their own portfolios, because they know that market has volatility, and also their business gets squeezed sometimes, and they have to be prepared for that. But the insurance companies manage risk probably better than anybody does, and they do that by managing corporate bonds. And as you know, corporate bonds have been around a long time. And stocks, by the way, has been paying, I seen one the other day, has been paying for over 120 years. So again, dividends, to get dividends, you got to find the right companies, not just any company, but the right companies. Because if you're going to be in stocks, you want growth too. That's the reason why we decided to hire specialists. People want growth and they want income if they're going to be in the stock market. You do that, but you have to do it with a lot of experience and a lot of education. A lot of people that we run across, they can go online, they think they can do this stuff on their own, and then they wind up calling us and they say they feel like that they can do a little bit of it, but they want to turn the reins over to somebody that's all they do, and it does make a lot of sense. I mean, we pay for what we get sometimes, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, we can find dividend-paying companies. Question is, are you going to get the growth too? You may be disappointed because you're not getting exactly what you paid for. So I don't know about you all, but the markets have definitely been a little tipsy-turvy in the last week or two. Unemployment actually went up for a change. And, unemployment's been going down for the last couple of years, and it's really what's made the stock market resilient. But it's now changed and went the other direction, which means that's the reason why we're having some volatility. Interest rates, and we pay close attention to the 10-year T-bill, is just at 4% today. Is it 4.5% just a couple months ago? It's come down a little bit. That's kind of somewhat good news. That may be the reason why mortgage rates are dropping a little bit. But at the same time, I don't know if rates are going to come down as quickly as they thought. Yes, there's an anticipation in September, but again, it's month by month, right? I mean, it depends on the data coming in and so forth. Now we got Israel and we got Iran. We got China nipping on Taiwan's door. You got all these things that you're always going to have to be able to understand that's going to affect the stock markets in some way. Not being a Debbie Downer, it's just they do affect the stock markets, and you got to be prepared for it philosophically. And how are you going to get through it? People want to make money in the stock market. They love the growth, but hey, there's times that you don't always get growth. Anytime the market jumps up like it did in 2023 till now. By the way, most people, all they've done is recovered from their losses from 2022. And if you look at the S&P today, it's at 5,300. Almost 3 years ago, it was at 4,800. So it's up only 500 points, 10-12%. Big deal. That's not a lot compared to inflation up around 20%. So too much tipsy-turvy for a lot of people. There's not enough dividends in that type of portfolio in the first place. So therefore, you have to deal with spending principle in up and down market, which actually hurts and erodes your balance over time to the point where you may or may not never be able to recover it. And then all of a sudden you got other news. I mean, it's like, okay, Warren Buffett sells $50 billion worth of Apple. Why did he do that? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm just err on caution right now. I mean, there's a reason why. You're talking about the largest company on the S&P 500. Why did he dump the stock? And so there's one thing, another piece of data that you probably want to know is the S&P 500 has been top heavy for the last year and a half. There's only been about 12, 15 companies have been driving the performance. It's what I mean by top heavy. That means the other 480-ish companies have only averaged about maybe 6%, where those companies are up 40 to 50%. So that's not great. Typically congruently, the companies all need to consistently go up, and even though some companies grow better than others, but that's never ever a good sign. That's the reason why I think there's been a pullback, because AI has not been accepted like they thought. So it's going to take a little bit more time. Anytime you introduce any type of products, people don't just start picking up and start buying them overnight. They start checking them out, may or may not buy them, and that's the reason why we're starting to see a change. Even Nvidia has had about a 25% hit. All those things, people, will bother your retirement plan. That's not what retirement's about growth. Now, don't get me wrong, I love growth. There's an appropriate place for growth, but you got to have income first if you want to get through retirement. If this makes sense to you, I want to put something in your hands that I think you may find very beneficial and important. It's called The Importance of Financial Defense. What is the defense that our clients are using right now? It's called dividends. When the markets have the tipsy-turvy like they've seen in the last couple of weeks, I'm prepared for it. It's like war. You got to be prepared, right? You got to prepare the military so that way they can be ready to fight when the time comes. It's the same way when it comes to being in the market. There's always a challenge of when the markets go down, how are you still going to get income? Everybody needs income. Just have an income plan that's related more to dividends and interest. Therefore, you can get your growth when the time comes. And if you get this commission report, you call 888-930-1080. Again, that the importance of financial defense, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source with Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about What is a successful retirement plan? What does that look like? Well, a successful retirement plan, first of all, you want to know what your income needs and your income wants are going to be. The things you're going to do when you're in retirement. It's a great exercise we go through. It helps people to open their eyes so that way they know totally that they're ready for retirement. Just like planning a vacation, you want to be prepared. Also, now that we have that in place, now we know how to be able to combat inflation and then what strategies need to be used to do that. You beat inflation by first and foremost finding out what you need. Also, you need to find the right philosophy for who you are now that you transition into retirement. I mean, at the end of the day, the key philosophy is to preserve your principal. So you want to be able to make sure that you find the right advisor can help you to do that. Because if you only need 1% or 2% of your portfolio, and at the end of the day, you can do that with an index fund. Don't hire a financial advisor. You can do that on your own. Anybody can do that. It's so easy, a caveman can do. But you may be one of those, so wait a minute, I may not need a lot, but I want to be able to reduce my risk. So that's different. Well, there's a way to maximize your returns while it's simultaneously reducing your risk. You do that by using bond and bond-like instruments and some defensive strategies that are using dividend stocks. You don't have to have a lot of stocks, but if you're one of those conservative people and you're trying to reduce risk and increase your return, that may be a great way of doing it. Again, it's all about the philosophy, finding somebody that's in line with your philosophy. Just because somebody says that they're a conservative advisor does not mean your investments are in conservative manner, because you may or may not be getting the income you need from income where you're at, because if you're spending principal, that's not, to me, that's not really what I would call a great conservative strategy. Keep in mind, retirement is a long-term liability. You're going to be you're going to need this money for 20, 25, or 30 years, so you need retirement income. That's a long-term liability. In order to serve that liability, you got to have income that's going to pay it through this fruition. And you want to get your income up. You don't want part-time income, you want full-time income. You want not regular size fry, you want biggie size fry. You want to get the biggest amount of chunk of income coming in from interest and dividends, and not returning your principal like in some of the strategies that I see today that are being used. Another strategy for a successful retirement plan is debt management. I mean, we have some people that are not in retirement that are eliminating their debt, like their mortgage or their 5 or 6 year truck or car payments. So a great way to get a head start in retirement is to not have debt. Yes, I know Dave Ramsey tells people not to have debt. I totally agree with that 100%. But at the same time, what can you do to be able to minimize your debt? And so sometimes we find people that if they're over 59 and a half, they wind up investing their money, or the people that works with us invest their money for interest and dividends. That boosts their income, and they're not earning right now anyway. Might as well take it off the table, because it's already been paid to them anyway. They can take that money and pay down their mortgage in as short as 3 to 4 years, sometimes sooner, depending on how much they owe. So we find people takes advantage of that strategy. Being debt-free, especially mortgage debt-free, is extremely important going into retirement. And also what makes a really, really good income need plan is one of the things that you're going to be having to plan for, and that is Social Security optimization. When should you elect to take Social Security? Well, we teach this course. We've already had about 6 events just in the last 3 or 4 months talking about optimization of Social Security. Well, Social Security deserves, we teach it for about an hour in the local colleges here, and it deserves more than an hour. I mean, because there's, people come in. I know that some people have different needs or reasons why they're coming. Most people come to want to optimize. You're not going to just pick up and learn how to optimize Social Security. All you're going to do is learn generally how Social Security works, and also how Social Security increases year by year and so forth. But see, it depends on the ages. See, the ages are everything. I mean, if the husband is 4 years older than the wife, then you're going to have to you're going to have to be strategic in a way in order to be able to get the most Social Security. So there's no simple one answer. You don't look at Social Security as in a vacuum, so to speak. You look at it at the whole 60,000 foot view. We look at if there's pensions. We look at the income that they can get from their portfolios and so forth. And the further we can stretch out Social Security and still retire when you want to retire, the better off you are. We find people coming in using our income strategies that allows them to delay Social Security as much as 3 to 5 years, say others 2 to 3 years, and that's just that much more that they're going to be able to get. It's kind of like having just by being strategic, being able to be more inflationary minded, especially as far as their cash flow and being able to get through retirement the most successful way. Again, we're trying to get the most blood out of turnip. You've already paid into the system. You might as well get the maximum that is going to be awarded to you. With that being said, I'm going to get a video retirement kit in your hand, 3 vignettes, 10 to 15 minutes in length. And it talks a lot about what we're talking about today, that things are extremely important when it comes to a successful retirement plan. And I got a free video kit for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. And we'll mail this out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers, free video retirement kit, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source of Tim Sparks. We will be back just in a minute. Welcome to the Retirement Income Source of Tim Sparks, and this show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky. Today we're talking about what is a successful retirement plan. What does it look like? I mean, if you think about it, we need a map if we're going to go anywhere we've never been before, or a GPS. It's the same way when it comes to having a successful retirement plan. What I'm teaching you on this show, especially in the today and in prior shows, is the things that I've learned what to do, and most importantly, what not to do in order to have a successful retirement. Because at the end of the day, we want to, I don't know about you, it's just, let's just say I'm 85 or 90 years old and I'm on my deathbed and I want to feel like, and of course I know money is not everything, but at least me speaking from the man's part, I want to feel like that I successfully prepared for retirement and also prepared for my wife and also my family in the best way that I know how. To do that, you got to have the right plan in place. And so I'm a big income guy. So I love income because I think income is the priority. If I had too much income while I'm sitting here talking to on the radio, and I knew it's going to be there permanently for the rest of my life, I wouldn't need to be here talking to you on the radio because I would need more than I need. I'd be finding other things to do with my time. But we know that that's not the way that things work. But when it comes to your money, we want to invest our money in a way that provides us income. And what we do, our philosophy is we use a strategy that is not seen today, and I do not know why it's utilized today, and it's called investing for income while simultaneously being in the stock market. Now, you can get income in different ways, but what I'm talking about is investing for interest and dividends in stocks, individual stocks, and bond-like instruments. Right now, the income is up. This is the highest I've seen income in several years. It's up a good 1% more, maybe 1.5% more than what it was just a couple years ago. So it's been a really great time to prepare people for retirement because now they're getting more for their buck than they were just a couple years ago. And so income increases are extremely important because, again, cash flow is everything. But again, what makes a successful retirement plan is understanding how much you need in the first place before you step into retirement. If you don't know what you need, then you're going to really struggle. You're going to kind of start off shooting from the hip And we've had people actually do that. We went ahead and I was a gentleman. I set aside and let them create the plan they wanted, and then knowing they were probably going to need more, and sure enough, I've seen it 100% of the time, because what people were spending while they were working all of a sudden decreases whenever they go into retirement, and I've never seen anybody like to see a big decrease, because if, they've saved this money and they want this money to perform for them each and every month. And so with that being said, I want to get a commission report in your hand called the building blocks of retirement. In other words, knowing how much you need in the first place is going to be extremely important. It's the most foundational part and the beginning of a good, successful retirement plan. And if you call today, 888-930-1080, again, that's 888-930-1080, we'll get this commission report in your hands. It's very helpful, and we'll mail it or email it, whichever you prefer. Again, that's 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we are talking about what makes a successful retirement. So far, we've covered income needs and wants. A lot of people hit and miss this a lot, and that's what I was just discussing there a second ago. There's ways of being able to know how much that is. That's what we do. We help people to understand that. And through our retirement risk review that we do, and it's offered to anybody here on the radio whenever they call in. That's where you have a phone call with me, and then it leads into an in-office visit. Another thing is extremely important is once you know your income needs, now how are you going to combat inflation? You combat inflation by having the right instruments in place that provide you income, while at the same time when the stock market goes up, you can get the increases that you were hoping to get. Again, trying to kill two birds with one stone. Income first, growth second. Growth will come whenever the markets go up. Philosophy. The philosophy of the person you're working with. Are they income focused or are they growth focused? That's extremely important, because the first 15 years are the most important part of your retirement plan. If you miss the first 15 years, the second 15 years coming back down that hill is going to be a very disappointing retirement, maybe one that you may dread, because you may have turned the first 15 years. Almost any retirement plan will do very good in the first 15 years. What's very disappointing and actually can make some people feel like they failed, and I've run across people that felt like that way working with them, as because their money went down. Nobody ever talked to them or helped them understand what income really is, and therefore they were spending their growth thinking it was growth, and unfortunately they were spending a principal, and principal is a no-no in those first 15 years. Debt management, get your debts down. You can do that by getting ahead of the game now. If you're a few years from retirement, you can use this time right now, invest for income in interest and dividends. Our clients are using it and are paying off their debts, and therefore when they go into retirement, they have that debt load now gone, and that means they've got a higher cash flow to do the things they want to do and enjoy the money with the other things, like especially their mortgage. That's extremely important. Optimization of Social Security is extremely important. Why is that? Because Social Security is an important pillar when it comes to the will of income. And we find that most people, if they plan correctly, they can get more Social Security, even if they want to retire as early as age 60, 62, it doesn't really matter. You can still get the optimization of Social Security. Now, as we all know, if we want to really truly optimize Social Security, just wait to age 70, right? Well, we want age 62 to look like age 70's income, right? But that's not how it works. You have to wait it out in order to get age 70. But how can you do that? Can you buy yourself 4 or 5 more years? And we do that by helping clients do that strategically by their other asset classes that they have. And not only that, pick up some income that they wasn't getting before in the first place. And the last ones are extremely important, like choosing the right advisor. Again, that's got a lot to do with interviewing the right advisor that's in line with your philosophy. If your philosophy, you need income, again, what's going to be extremely important is to make sure that you're getting not just the income now, but make sure that you're not withering away your principal. And be very careful whenever you see something that's a plan created by software, because the software can be manipulated. It does not mean that that plan is going to come through its fruition. You're going to have luck at your side, like an airplane flying from California west to east. You got the wind at your back. You're going to have a lot of wind at your back in order for that plan to be able to work, especially with some of the ones that I've seen. So you got to be extremely important. You got to be extremely careful when it comes to that type of retirement plan. Well, we've come up at the end of the show, but I want to give you one more shot at getting this Income First Method retirement video kit. It's got three videos, 3 vignettes, about 10-15 minutes in length. Pretty short and easy to understand. Talks a lot about the concepts that we use here and talk about on the radio. And if you're like me, a visual is worth 1,000 words. And so if you're one of the first 5 callers, you can get this by calling 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. We'll mail this out to you. Again, 3 vignettes, 10-15 minutes in length, very powerful video book. My number, 888-930-1080. We appreciate you tuned in to today's radio show and you're listening to Tim Sparks with the Retirement Income Source. We hope you got a lot of benefit from this show, and we look forward to next week's show and hopefully to give you some more valuable advice when it comes to having a successful retirement. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you and talking to you again next week, Lord willing.